I'm Alessandra Barrett, Special Projects Editor for the Journal of Commerce. I'm at our 14th annual TPM conference in Long Beach, California. I'm joined today by Steve Cernak, CEO and Port Director of Port Everglades. Thanks for joining me today, Steve.
Thanks, I'm glad to be here.
How was 2013 for the port, and what are you expecting for 2014?
What I've noticed in 2013 that we had continued slow, steady growth in our operations. All of our metrics are pointing upward. And in 2013, we had approximately 927,000 TEUs. We're forecasting around 947,000 in 2014. While we're still not at our peak from 2008, 2009, all of our performance metrics show that we have continued growth.
Refrigerated cargoes are a popular commodity in Florida. Can you give me some background on that and how that's being grown?
Perishables are one of the mainstays in Port Everglades. Last year, for example, we did approximately 130,000 TEUs. We've worked with the Florida Perishables Coalition to have a pilot program which is on trial now at Port Everglades and Port Miami, where we're bringing in grapes and blueberries from Uruguay and Peru, and we're seeing good success from that program. We are hopeful that it will lead to further expansion in the future.
Now the port has a number of expansion projects underway. Can you give me sort of a rundown of the top ones and discuss them?
Sure, there are a lot of them on the books. One of the important ones that will be completed this summer is a public-private partnership that we had with Florida East Coast Railway. They're constructing an intermodal container transfer facility on port property. I believe it's the only one of its kind in the United States in that it can handle both international and domestic cargoes. We're looking for big things to happen from this project. It's going to allow us to attract potential customers to move their goods through Port Everglades and have quick access to the hinterlands. Tied in with that, there's the Eller Drive overpass, which is a grade separation project that the state is constructing. That will be completed by the end of the year. We also are starting on what's known as the Southport Turning Notch expansion. One of the challenges that we've had for growth at Port Everglades is the availability of berths. Sometimes when vessels want to come in, we're full and they have to wait at anchorage. This project will create up to 5 additional new berths and will allow us to, more effectively utilize our uplands. Other projects that we have ongoing, I'm working on the Deepening Project with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. This is a historical legacy project that goes back to the 1996 Water Resource Development Act. It was started as a study the following year by the Corps, and here we are in 2014, and we still do not have a chief's report. I've been rather proactive and somewhat vocal in moving this project forward, and I believe that we're starting to gain some traction up in Washington, and I am cautiously optimistic that this year we will get to a point where we will have a signed chief's report.
Publicly, there's been a great deal of support for the Deepening Project. What's the delay?
As far as the delay goes, I really can't speak to what's really been going on with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers in completing this project. I can see historically that there's been a lot of starts and stops as the project's progressed. There's amazing community support. Being at Port Everglades now for 2 years, the one thing that I've really found refreshing and caught me quite by surprise was the business community's strong support for this project. They have engaged in ways that I never could have imagined being possible, and I'm very appreciative for their support. Legislatively, my legislators have been very proactive in moving this project forward. I have to thank both the congressmen and senators for their support. Debbie Wasserman Schultz and Lois Frankel in particular have been really outstanding in advancing this project forward, as well as Senator Nelson. So I see that the progress that's been made is really by the proactive efforts that have been put forth by everybody, and I've become one of the more vocal proponents for this project going forward, and that's what gives me my cautious optimism that we'll get it to the finish line this year.
Great. Any other projects that you'd like to discuss?
Well, we have a very aggressive capital plan over the next 5 years. It's calling for $575 million in expenditures. So we're going through the process of how we're going to raise that money, how we're going to finance the projects, but tied in with deepening the channel, which that will also widen the channel and straighten out what we call the knuckle so that we can have larger vessels pass each other in the channel with minimal tug assists. We have container cranes that we're looking to order so that we can have a longer reach and a higher lift over capability. That's moving forward. We have to use low profile cranes because of our proximity to the airport. So this is a case where the good news is we're really close to the airport for our cruise operations. The bad news is we're close to the airport for our container operations, but we have a solution that will allow us to service the vessels that we have. The one thing that I also want to add to the harbor deepening project is we already have the larger vessels calling at Port Everglades, albeit light loaded. We're predominantly a north-south trade lane port. So the Med, Europe, via the Suez Canal to East Coast, Central and South America. And that's our bread and butter. I think that the Panama Canal widening discussion is good for us. It's put the focus on the need for infrastructure that's been languishing for so long. And I think that we all stand to gain a little bit from that as it moves forward, although we'll have to see how that plays out.
Oh, wonderful. Well, thanks for taking time to speak with me today.
Well, thank you very much for having me here this afternoon.
I've been speaking with Steve Cernak, CEO and Port Director, Port Everglades.